Just after the midterms of 2022, these past midterms last week, were concluded, Joe Biden announced that he intended to run for president in 2024. He was clear that no man can predict the future, whether they will be ready to run. No one knows whether they will be alive or dead in 2 weeks. But he said it is his intention to run for president. This was almost a foregone conclusion. There are some people who talked that, oh, we need a younger person to run. Oh, Beto O'Rourke should run. And there is a possibility, still a possibility, nobody knows the future, but there was a possibility that Beto O'Rourke might have been a reasonable candidate. The problem is, of course, he lost his bid for the governorship of Texas. And when you've just lost, it is a hard thing to get up right then and say, well, I lost this election, but I'll run for the president, and that, I'm going to be great. And he probably would be great and probably get nothing done, because in order to get anything done, you have to work with some awful people who are trying to sabotage your agenda. In my opinion, that's the same reason that Bernie Sanders. I love the policies of Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren and Beto O'Rourke. Man, it just thrills my soul to think of them being instituted. But I would not have wanted them for a candidate for president. I think they would have been unelectable. And even if they somehow got elected, they wouldn't have been able to accomplish anything with Republicans able with the filibuster to block legislation. But the most important thing isn't how good a president is, just the fact that he is the incumbent candidate. Incumbent meaning he's in office and now he's running for that office again. The fact that you are already in office and you are running for that office gives a politician a huge advantage, especially, but not just excluded to, the presidency. With the presidency, you noticed it during the run-up to the midterms this year, the people listen when the president talks. The only reason people listen to the treasonous speeches of Donald Trump is because he was president. When the president of the United States says something, maybe especially when it's treasonous, it's newsworthy and people listen to it, and people, it's reported on the news. That bully pulpit of the presidency, of an office, gives a person a huge advantage with the constituency that is going to vote, him back into office. Hold it now, that was the case with Donald Trump. Why didn't it work for him? His approval rating never got out of the basement. And he could have won re-election. All he had to do was be president, but he wasn't interested in being president. He was interested in his own power and money. People who watch Biden recognize that what he is attempting to do is work the presidential office for the public weal, for the public good. And that is what politicians, leaders in the United States are supposed to do. That is not what the Republican Party is doing. They are working for their own power and money. So Trump was voted out of office. To be an incumbent president, to be in office and voted out, oh my, you have to be in nasty, nasty situations to be voted out of office. I remember President Carter. Maybe most people do not. But his time in office was just not good. Inflation was far more than it is now. You could run out and get a CD for the upper teens of percentage rate. A CD, do you know what CDs are now? I think they're 1.5%. Back then, under Carter, you could go out and get a CD for 17, 16%. And inflation rate was just terrible. And it was very difficult for everyone. So he was voted out of office and Trump was voted out of office. But usually when a president incumbent runs for re-election, usually he's reelected. He has much better chance. And therefore, he is almost always, oh, good night. Can I say always? I'm sure I can't with the history being so long. But he is almost always the candidate for that party's nomination for the president. Now, what Joe Biden is doing is using his office for the good of the people who live in this country. Even for those MAGA Republicans, he is working for their good. Donald Trump never, ever allowed that to enter into his brain. His purpose in being president was himself, his power, his money, his brand. He was there to benefit himself. It doesn't take a genius to see that in a person and in their actions. I remember one man went out and he was interviewing MAGA Republicans. And one MAGA Republican, he was so excited, he had a t-shirt. And on the t-shirt, on the top it said Trump Dynasty. And across the front it showed Trump being president, and then I think it was his wife, and then it was his daughter, and then it was his son, and then it was his other son, and his son-in-law, and on and Barron, and all down the line. And for 30 years or whatever. And it went on and on down the line. And the guy who was doing the interview said, but you've got them coming into office every 4 years. You know that means that every time a Trump gets into office, they're thrown out of the office as soon as they can. And this, the person who had the t-shirt had no conception that a person who goes into the presidency very often and even usually serves for 8 years because they are the incumbent and they try to do a good job and they get reelected. The guy said, oh no, the presidency is 4 years. The interviewer tried to explain to him how the presidency worked, but it was funny. But the thought was, Trump, as soon as he got in office, as soon as possible, they'd be voted out. Trump does not care about the public good. This was shown over and over again. He's in it for himself. And that fits the Republican message. How long have they been saying it? First person, well, many people said it before that, but Reagan was famous for saying, the government is not the solution. The government is your problem. You need to get government out of everything. We don't want canned meats that are healthy. We want them rotten. Get those FDA inspectors out of there. We don't want meat from healthy animals. We want meat from diseased animals. Get the government out of there. Get the government out of everything it's in. We don't want anyway. This is obviously not true, but but Republicans hate the idea of good government. But here's the trick. We don't get to choose government or no government. Good government is a good thing. Bad government is a bad thing. A dearly beloved relative of mine was at my house and she was visiting. And at one point she said, boy, I'll tell you, change is good. Change is always good. When change happens, that's a good thing. That's a really, really good thing. And I don't know if I said or thought, it's been many years ago. but at least I thought to myself, boy, if you tell a person that they have pancreatic cancer, they're in for huge changes. That Hail Mary chemotherapy that probably won't do any good is going to make their life absolutely miserable. Pancreatic cancer is horrible, and usually, depending on the type, usually deadly, usually terminal. But that's change. That's change. Good change is good. Bad change is bad. And good government, Joe Biden, who just, frankly, saved my pension by passing the Butch-Lewis Act. Actually, it was passed with the American Rescue Plan, and that's been quite a while ago as presidential terms go. But that saved a lot of people, including my pension. And that is a good thing for tens and hundreds of thousands of people who deposited their hard-earned money into their pension funds, and then the pension funds went belly up and all that money is now gone. And so he used money from the American Rescue Plan to save those pensions. That is good government. It is serving as best he can. You can make discussions about how money should be spent, and maybe it should have been spent over here, maybe it should have been spent over there. But government money is never works like that. If you don't spend it over here, that doesn't free up any money to spend over here. It just never works that way. But his point was, and his point is with the student loan forgiveness. Again, Republicans hate that because it is government that is working for the public good, working for the good of actual people. The CHIPS Act. So we aren't dependent upon a country that's right next to China for all of the computer chips that we have. And we could go on and on forever and ever of all the legislation that has been passed under Biden's administration, and all of it has been focused on the public good. It is all good government. Is it perfect policy? Only time will tell. Public policy is hard, and it has unintended consequences. And so it's easy for somebody else 20 years down the line to say, ha, that thing that old so-and-so did over there, look at this horrible situation it engendered over here. No, nobody saw that. The purpose in the initial part was to do good. And that is the point of government, and that is the difference between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. That is the difference between Republicans and Democrats. A point of the belief system, the religion of Republicans is government is bad. No thinking government writer has ever believed this, but it engenders division, confusion, and lack of trust in government. Democrats and Joe Biden are working for the public good. And that is exactly why that I'm so pleased that Joe Biden has announced his candidacy to run for president, and in all probability, he will win. That's a long ways away. Who knows? But in general, when an incumbent president runs for re-election, he wins.